Hello, Sackville, Year 11. I hope you're doing well. My name is Mr. Glyn Thomas, Mr. GT, and I'm being paid to help you for your computer science exam, which, no stress, but it's about 3 and a bit months away. So my aim is not to increase your stress, but I'm hoping that I can help you. Please do, if you feel able, introduce yourself in the comments. And what I'm going to do over the next few weeks is go through everything in paper 1 and everything in paper 2 and hopefully give you a chance to maybe see things for the first time or just to improve where you are really, or to identify where things are going wrong. However, I've got a plan in terms of I'm going to go through the syllabus for paper 1 and paper 2 with you. But if you've got areas that you really want to discuss or really want me to help you with, let me know in the comments and I can always shift slightly to accommodate whatever it is you need. So I'm your private tutor who's here for you. But you don't have to talk to me and you don't even have to look at me. But please do get involved in the comments, especially if anything that I say doesn't make any sense, okay? So the first thing is just this is where we are now. We've got 3 months to go, and I know that it can feel quite scary at this point because you will have done some revision, maybe not a huge amount. Can I ask you to be daring and put a number in the comments between 1 and 5 or between 0 and 5? 0 would mean I've done no revision at all and I'm feeling a blind sense of panic, and 5 is I'm feeling really smug. I've done lots of revision. I would like the exams to be tomorrow. If you're brave enough, put a number in the comments because I'm curious to see how calm and relaxed you feel. I know the class that I teach currently, there would be a lot of 1s and 2s in there. There'd be the odd 4 and 5, but there'd be a lot of 1s and 2s. So if you do get a chance, stick a comment in there, and I'll be curious to see where you are. People are always a bit scared about putting things in the comments, but listen, don't worry. That's why I'm here to help you. So let's just do a quick situation report. We've got 3 months to go before you have to sit on a wobbly desk with a see-through pencil case in a hall with people pacing up and down. You see your whole life in front of you, and it's just all very, very scary. Now, we're not going to worry about any of that at all, okay? And we're going to try and get rid of all of your stresses. All right. There is one other approach we could have, which would be to think about how we can solve it. And that's what we're going to do today. And I think probably that it would be a better plan than perhaps this.
It is my professional opinion that now is the time to panic.
So we're not going to go for that because I don't think that's going to be helpful at all. And what I want to do instead is jump in and start to look at system architecture. I guess the point I'm making is it doesn't matter where you are now. Commit to spending 15, 20 minutes a day on this, and then things will get better. You're not going to ever be able to do hundreds of hours of revision towards the end. Just do a little bit every day. So time that you'd waste on social media looking at stuff that isn't that interesting, maybe you can actually just spend 15 to 20 minutes a day, and it's those little nudges that are going to make a massive difference when it comes to the exam. But also, let's try and focus on trying to be as accurate as possible, because this is, after all, computer science, and there's not really room for waffle. It's about trying to be accurate in what you say. What we'll cover today is 1.1.1, which is the purpose of the CPU, common components, and the von Neumann architecture. And I reckon I've got about 40 minutes worth of stuff here. And like I say, you've been quite shy so far, 10 of you in, so do please put something in the comments. If I say something and you think I don't really get that, I'm here to help you, okay? So make sure that you speak up if there's something that makes no sense. So you do need to know what happens at each stage of the FDE cycle, the fetch, decode, execute cycle, or the fetch, execute cycle as they call it now, the role of each component, what it manages, and so on, and what the registers do. The registers is quite hard to remember, but that's going to be a really good way of scoring marks. And it's going to make you feel so much better if you go into this exam and the first questions will be on this topic, because they tend to do things in order, but this is always the first thing that they ask about, okay? So we'll go through now and look at all the different areas. Now, this mind map, which, by the way, I have shared with Mr. Bilali Godfrey, we used to work together, by the way, which is how we sort of knew each other, and I've ended up doing this. But anyway, this mind map that you will have a copy of, this contains absolutely everything you need to know for this topic, and I'm going to kind of go through all of these elements today, but I appreciate that on your computers that is absolutely massive and too big for you to see, too small for you to see. So instead, I think 50-minute teach is a bit hopeful, but I'm hoping that we can actually get through all of this. The first thing they're going to ask you is, what is the purpose of the CPU? What's it for? What does it do? The CPU is a machine, and it relentlessly carries out something called the fetch execute cycle, or the fetch decode execute cycle. And there are 3 elements to this. Surprise, surprise. The first one is that the CPU will fetch instructions from memory. Now, what memory, you're asking? Well, it's going to be RAM. And I'll go on to talk about RAM in one of the later live streams. But RAM, we know, holds all data and applications currently in use. There's one mark for you right there. RAM holds all data and applications currently in use. You need to put that inside your memory. Inside your memory, okay? What does RAM do? It holds all applications and data currently in use. So literally everything that you're looking at on your computer right now, or looking at on your phone, that is being held inside random access memory, all right? So the CPU is fetching instructions from RAM, because that's where it's being held. Not from the hard drive, not from secondary storage, from primary storage. All right, the next thing is, it takes an instruction, it fetches it, and then it decodes it to work out, what am I supposed to do? Is this a command to read something? Is it a command to write? Is it a command to store? Is it a command to add things to two things together? Or is it a command to ask me whether this is bigger than this? So that's the decode bit. And the last part, obviously, is the execute part of it, where it does whatever the instruction's asking it to do, okay? That could potentially be 2 or 3 marks for you at the very, very beginning of the paper. Describe the fetch, decode, execute cycle. Name 2 things that happen as part of the fetch, decode, execute cycle. And all you've got to do in that case is repeat one of these sentences. An instruction is fetched from memory. That instruction is decoded. That instruction is executed, and it happens repeatedly. There's 4 things you could say, okay? Any of those would get you a mark. So just make sure you're happy about what the FDE cycle is, and then you can go on to question 2. Now, there's a lot of detail here. And in fact, you actually don't need to necessarily know all of this, but it is important that you kind of understand how this machine works. So the fetch, the decode, and the execute part of it. And I'm going to show you a diagram of the CPU in a couple of minutes. And I recommend that you watch this video back, looking at that diagram and looking at this set of instructions to see what happens, because you can follow the data around. Now, you don't need to describe how data gets moved around the CPU, but you just need to know how it works, and kind of knowing this is a really big help. So you know we've got registers and we've got components, but we'll get into that in a second. So that information is something we're going to come back to in a bit. But if you know all the stuff on that page, you've got a really good understanding of how the fetch, decode, execute cycle works. Right, I'm going to jump in now and look at common CPU components, all right? And you've got a couple of components that you need to understand what they do, what they're for. And this top one is the control unit, okay? So we've got CPU, but control unit is the CU. And this is like the boss. This is the boss that organizes everything, but you can't say it's the boss. What you need to say is that it controls signals required to coordinate running the processor. That's 1 mark. Your second mark could be including the movement of data between components and decoding instructions. So there's 3 things there, okay? You only need to know 2 of them, but recognizing what's there is really important. So the first one is that it controls signals to coordinate the running of the processor. The next thing is it's the movement of data between components and decoding instructions. That is what the control unit does, all right? It is the boss. Then you've got the ALU, which is this next guy down here. Now, the ALU, this is like a super powerful calculator, but it doesn't just do arithmetic, it does logic as well. So you know, greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to, all of that Boolean logic you might remember from some time ago. That's what this does. So this is a calculator which can do adding, dividing, exponent, modulus, all that sort of stuff. And I'll talk more about those later on. It actually carries out the instructions. So it's a really super powered calculator. And then the other thing you need to know about are the registers. And the registers are super fast, tiny blocks of memory. And when I say fast, I'm being vague. I mean fast read-write speeds, okay? Small capacity, so small in size. They don't hold much data, but it's super fast memory. And it needs to be fast because a CPU carries out FDE cycles very, 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 very quickly. But each FDE cycle is actually a very small, insignificant thing, like taking a number and putting it there, or taking this number and adding it to that number, or taking this number and moving it somewhere else. So it's really simple tasks that it performs, but what makes the CPU so powerful is that it does it so quickly. And we'll get on to how quickly it does it later on. 17 people in. Welcome. Right, then we've got cache, and we'll talk about what these registers are in a minute. And then we've got cache. Do you remember earlier I said to you we've got RAM, which holds all the applications and data currently in use. It's burnt into my brain because I say it every single lesson, because it will be there. They will ask you that. There's 1 mark for you. Then you've got cache. Cache is another type of memory. Okay, and cache, unlike RAM, it doesn't hold all of the applications and data currently in use, but it holds the most frequently used ones. So it's there like a little scratch pad. So when you need a URL, when you need an IP address, it's just there waiting to be used because it saves going and fetching it from RAM. It's smaller than RAM and it's fast, super fast memory. And when you buy a new computer, you'll see that cache speed and the amount of cache is something you pay a lot of money for. RAM's expensive too. And of course the CPU is the most expensive component of any computer. Roughly about a third the price of a computer is the CPU. So this is all kind of coming together, isn't it? So let's just have a look at the mind map to make sure you're happy with how this works. So I'm looking here from the top left, and we're looking at the CPU components, and they break down into 2 areas. You've got the control unit and you've got the ALU. Now I have pinched, stolen, borrowed, taken without asking all of these items over here from mark schemes. And you know what? They appear in every single mark scheme. These are the words. What does the control unit do? It decodes instructions. There's a mark for you. It runs the FDE cycle. There's a mark for you. And do you remember I mentioned about sending signals? It sends signals to control the processor, the hardware, the FDE process, the flow of data. So the control unit is really the boss of everything. And we talked about the ALU. It's like a super powerful calculator on steroids, which works really, really quickly, and it performs mathematical and logical calculations. Now, something they haven't done for quite a while, but they could do to you, is that they could give you something like this diagram you can see on the bottom left there, this guy down here. And they could ask you, they could fill in some of it and ask you to fill in the rest. And again, these are the things that we've covered so far. And I'm hoping that when you see down here we have got memory, that memory you understand to be RAM. Secondary storage has got nothing to do with this. Secondary storage, your hard drive, your hard disk drive, your solid state storage, it's not relevant here. That's only used for saving stuff, for when you turn your computer off, for going back and looking at for permanently storing data, okay? All of this is going to go either from RAM or from cache, okay? So you've got memory, that's your RAM. Your input device could be a mouse, a keyboard, a microphone, like I'm using here, my trusty Shure M7B. So that is an example of your input device. Then we've got the ALU, which is the calculator that's doing maths and logic. And then we've got this guy here, which we'll come to in a minute, the accumulator. That is a little memory store which is inside the ALU, and it's used for storing intermediate results of calculations. And then we've got the control unit, which has also got its own little memory store, which is called the PC. It's a tiny piece of a tiny capacity, super fast piece of memory. And then we've got 2 more registers, the memory address register and the memory data register. Now, I want to say to you now that on my website, which you'll find, because Cognautics, I've got some videos on there. I have got a couple of videos on the CPU. I recommend you watch the second and third one in particular, because it takes you through the flow of data through the CPU. And kind of once you understand how it works, it's much easier to remember it. Because while that isn't necessarily directly in the exam, if you don't understand how it works, you're just learning random sentences which don't make any sense, and it's quite hard to make them stick inside your heads. 19 in. Well, well done, guys. Well done, Sackville. That's a good turnout for a Tuesday night. All right. We're now going to look at registers. So registers, we're talking about these guys that you can see in the middle here. This one, this one, this one, and this one. Now listen, this is going to be on the first or second page of your exam. And they always, always, always ask you what these do. It's difficult to remember what they do, but there are one or two that are easier to remember, and then you've just got to figure out what the other two are. So we've got the program counter, or the PC. We've got the accumulator, or the AC. We've got the memory address register, the MAR, and we've got the memory data register, the MDR. Now, what you can see on the page on the right-hand side here is the form of words that you need to know for each of these. This is what a memory register is. It's a low-capacity, high-speed chunk of memory, okay? We've got the accumulator. And the accumulator works here inside the arithmetic logic unit. So it's a bit of memory that goes with the calculator, all right? And obviously, what sort of things would a calculator want to store? It would want to store the intermediate results of calculations carried out in the ALU. Intermediate results of calculations. Most people can remember that one easily because there's an obvious logic about the accumulator sitting inside the calculator, the ALU, and needing to store intermediate results, okay? Then we've got this one down the bottom here, which I think is the next easiest to figure out, the program counter, and that is the control unit's little chunk of memory, okay? Now, the program counter is literally pointing to the next thing that's going to happen. And when you think about it, when you think about a CPU and it's carrying out the fetch, decode, execute cycle, we know that the instructions that it's going to be fetching are held in RAM. So far, so good, right? So the CPU is going to fetch the instructions held in RAM. Well, what does the CPU need to know? It needs to know where the next instruction is. In other words, where in RAM is the instruction? And RAM is organized in the different memory slots, and each memory slot has a number. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you've got 1,000 slots of memory inside RAM where you can store data and instructions, okay? So the PC is going to point to the place, the whereabouts of the next instruction, okay? So that's all it does. It points to, it holds the next instruction that's going to be fetched from memory. Not the one you're working on now, but the one that you're going to be working on. And while we're there, let's do the next one, which is this guy here, the memory address register. And notice already this is being divided into two things. The where, which is the address, where is it held, and the what, the data or the instruction, okay? So the memory address register, actually all that happens is what's in the PC, the program counter, and let's say for the sake of argument it's memory address 1000, right? That simply gets copied into the MAR, which is the memory address register, and then whatever is in that memory location is copied into the memory data register. So during the fetch cycle, all of those things have to happen. The MAR, whatever is in the PC, the whereabouts of the instructional data, that's copied into the memory address register, and then whatever is in there is copied into the MDR, and that's because the memory data register holds the data that's been fetched from memory, okay? And the MAR simply holds the address of the data to be fetched from memory. I know it's a lot to take on, but for this particular topic, if you know these forms of words, let's make up a random number, you are likely to score between 4 and 6 marks on the first 2 pages of the paper. And given that in paper 1 and paper 2, it's about 6 or 7 marks for a grade boundary, that means you're already hitting a grade 9 if you can remember those 4 items of the registers, right? So that's what you need to be doing. 21 people in. Very impressive. Very impressive for a Tuesday night. Welcome. No comments yet, but don't be afraid to ask me. If anything doesn't make sense, just ask. Because the stupid thing would be, not that any of you are, but the stupid thing would be not to ask me. I'm being paid to help you, so ask me if you're stuck, okay? This is a bit more scary. This is taken from past papers, and I've just sort of collected together all of the different ways that they've talked about the different registers, right? So these are all the different things that the registers do, but don't panic. You don't need to know all of these. All you need to actually know for the exam are the 4 different elements we've got here, whether it holds the next instruction, the current data, the address of data to be fetched, or intermediate results. That's all you need to know. And if you know those, you should be able to walk through them. So if I were you, I would try and commit those to memory. You might find it more helpful to watch my video on the Cognautics channel so you can see how the data flows, because it kind of makes sense. Well, of course it makes sense, because it's an architecture. The guy that created this, the von Neumann, John von Neumann, I don't know whether you know about him, but he actually was around in the sort of Second World War time. He worked on the atomic bomb, and he was a physicist and mathematician, and he designed the CPU architecture that we still use today. It's not really changed a huge amount since the 40s, so clearly it works, because we still use it now. So this is quite a useful, it's quite busy, this diagram, but this contains absolutely everything that you need to know about how the CPU actually works. So let's just jump into this. And why are we studying the von Neumann architecture? Because there are other architectures, for example, the Harvard architecture, and there were other architectures before that weren't as efficient. But the von Neumann architecture, because of the way that it was configured, it meant that computers could be multi-purpose. And there's a whole lot of reasons why we don't need to go into now. But sort of before this, computers would have had to have been wired up specially with cables put in certain inputs and outputs in order to do a specific job. Whereas the von Neumann architecture meant that you could use software, and bear in mind it keeps data and instructions together. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because any computer program fundamentally contains 2 things. It contains instructions. So, for example, an application that would be used to make you look like a baby, okay, one of the things you can download from the App Store, yeah? Now, when it actually runs, first of all, it needs to take your data, so it'll take your picture, and then it'll look at the data of your face. So it'll look at your lines. You'll have far fewer lines here than me, but it will identify those, and it will take those markers, and it will then apply some filters to it, okay? So you're looking at the data of your face and then applying instructions to it. It's a bit of a simplified explanation, that, but all computers, all programs just consist of data and instructions, okay? And that's all held in RAM. Okay, so we talked about the fact we've got the CPU, which processes all data and instructions, and we know that it carries out the fetch, decode, execute cycle, and it carries that out repeatedly. We've got the control unit, which is an overall control of the CPU. It executes the FDE cycle, and it controls the flow of data inside and outside the CPU. We've got the ALU, I know I'm repeating myself here, the powerful calculator, which has got certain functions like and, or, not, binary shifts. Anyone know what mod is? M-O-D. It would also do mods. Anyone know what a mod is? Stick it in the comments if you do. And then I'm just recapping here. You've got the idea that over here, the program counter holds the memory address of the instruction for each cycle. You've got the memory address register, the one that's going to be used, the address that will be used. You've got the data itself that's going to be acted upon. You've got RAM down here. You've got the accumulator, a little register that holds the intermediate results of calculations going on in this guy, the ALU, the super fast calculator. And then you've got the control unit, which is the boss, and we're back round full circle again. So those are the components of the CPU that you need to know. Again, any questions, just ask in the comments. Right. Let's now talk about CPU performance. So we know that the CPU carries out the fetch execute cycle, and it carries it out a certain number of times per second. And we know that when you buy a 4 gigahertz computer, it carries out more instructions per second than a 1 gigahertz computer. What's actually quite unbelievable is that if you think about the latest Android phones and the latest Apple phones, they are now up to nearly 1 trillion FDE cycles per second. A trillion, which is an awful lot, isn't it? So that's why computers are so unbelievably useful and fast, because they carry out these instructions at such lightning speed. Right then, so we know that CPU performance is measured in something called clock speed. Okay, that's what it's referred to as. CPU performance is called clock speed. So if you said to someone, what's the clock speed of your computer, they'd say it's 3.4 gigahertz. And that's because clock speed is measured in hertz. Okay. Now, hertz, you've got megahertz, you've got hertz, you've got megahertz, kilohertz, megahertz, gigahertz, just like megabytes, kilobytes, megabytes, and gigabytes. Okay, it works in the same way. We've got 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, an increment of 1,000, a multiplication of 1,000 each time. So it's measured in hertz, and those hertz measure the number of FDE cycles, fetch, decode, execute cycles, carried out per second. Okay, so therefore you can see down here a 3.5 gigahertz computer performs 3.5 billion FDE cycles per second. Okay, at the bottom here we've got a little recap of the stuff we've covered so far, and we've got the fact that programs consist of data and instructions. And the reason I've put that in there is because it's a really simple thing. A program is just instructions: do this, do that, do the other, but it needs to know the data on which it's going to carry those instructions out on. Okay, the next thing is the CPU processes all the data and all the instructions. Okay, it does all of those things. That is this guy here. Okay, all data and instructions are carried out by the CPU, and CPU is measured in clock speed, which equates to being hertz. Okay, so they might ask you what's it measured in, or they'll do one of those table questions. You know, when they've got definitions down the left-hand side, and then they've got the items here, or vice versa, and they make you tick into which is which. They love doing that with memory registers too. So you're looking for the word next to pick out the PC. So these contain registers for accessing, writing data. What are registers? Low capacity, high speed memory. They won't ask you about that. And we've got the CPU characteristics are clock speed, cores, and the size of the cache. And I'm hoping, I sometimes wonder if I'm turning my students into some strange cult that I'll go in and say, what's cache? And they'll go, it's frequently used data and instructions, sir. What is RAM? What does RAM hold? It holds all data and applications currently in use. That will be in there, okay? So make sure you go away and learn those. And by the way, von Neumann, what was unusual about his architecture is that one memory was used for data and instructions, and of course that memory is RAM. So I'm hoping that this is beginning to make a little bit more sense. Right, we're back onto, where are we? 57. Yeah, we've got about 10-15 minutes to go, and then I've got any questions and a quiz, although you've been quite shy so far, so I'm not sure how that will go. Anyway, CPU performance. We're going to look at cache. As I said to you a minute ago, what is cache? Cache stores frequently used data and instructions. Okay, frequently used data and instructions. That is the purpose of cache. Because why is it there? It's there because it saves having to fetch it from slower and bigger capacity RAM, which takes longer. Also, the cache is sometimes built, well, the cache is built into the computer. And if you're looking at the specification of a computer, you'll see it's got level 1, level 2, level 3 cache. The level 1 cache, which I've got down here on my wonderful diagram, which took me absolutely ridiculously long to make. Level 1 cache, level 2 cache, level 3 cache. Can you see those there? Now, the arrows on the left and right-hand side of this hopefully make sense to you, that if you work from top to bottom, these arrows make sense. So at the top, we've got distance from the CPU. As we go down this list, the memory is further away from the CPU. As we go down this list, the read-write speeds increase. So registers have got a ridiculously fast read-write speed. If you can hear any idiot dogs barking, they're mine. Then if you look on the right-hand side, the cost. Registers, very expensive. Cache, very expensive. RAM, expensive but not as expensive. Virtual memory, secondary storage, not as expensive. And then we've got capacity, which is larger size. I should have written capacity, not size. You can see that increases. So I'm hoping this makes a little bit of sense there. Okay, so back to our diagram. Cache is built into the CPU. So it is smaller than RAM, it's faster than RAM, but it's also physically closer to the CPU, so the data has less far to travel, which makes it faster. The other point I want to make here is I want you to imagine a shelving unit, okay? If you've got a shelf which has got a shelving unit with 3 shelves and a shelving unit with 300 shelves, and you're trying to find, and all of them are full of stuff, it's going to be quicker to find things on a smaller shelving unit because there are fewer places to look. And that principle works here because cache, it's only got a small capacity, like a shelving unit with 3, cabbie holes, okay? So therefore, it's quicker to find stuff. It's closer to the CPU, and therefore you can load data and find data more quickly, okay? But cache, what are its characteristics? Cache has got super fast read-write speeds. The larger the cache, the faster the frequently used instructions and data are brought into the processor. There is a sweet spot that if cache becomes too big, then it doesn't actually serve its purpose. But generally speaking, the larger the cache size, the better. And you pay a premium for having a computer with a large capacity cache. You pay a lot more for it, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. They won't ask you about level 1, level 2, level 3 cache, but it helps to understand it. When you're looking at a spec of a computer, that will be something that's in there in terms of it's got those 3 levels of cache. What's the capacity of that cache? So that's why cache is so useful. Now we go on to cores. On the right-hand side here, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else, you can see that this is a CPU, all right? But computers nowadays often have more than one CPU. The CPU is called a core, okay? It's a core. That's what it's called. So they do this rather sneaky question. You can probably picture it. I bet you've done some past paper questions. They've got computer 1, computer 2, and computer 1 is a 4 gigabytes computer, but computer 2 is a 2 gigabytes computer with 8 cores. Which one is faster? And if you know nothing about computers, you'll say, oh, it's the first one. But actually, the one that's got 4 times 2 gigahertz computer is going to be quicker. So you've got to do some quick maths there, because if it's got 4 cores, then you can multiply the clock speed by 4. All right, so they often do that to try and catch you out. So what's the benefit of having more cores? Well, if you've got more cores, you have got more performance. It carries out more FDE cycles per second. Now, parallel processing, which is a concept I'll cover really briefly, it means that different instructions from the same program can be run at the same time by different cores. So as long as the program's been written to take account of multi-threading, it means that the 4 CPUs can all be working on different tasks at the same time. Therefore, the program will run much more quickly. It might not run 4 times as quickly, but it'll run significantly faster with 4 cores than it will with 1. Okay, it obviously depends how fast the cores are as well. It depends on the clock speed of the cores, all right? And multitasking, which is another concept, allows instructions from more than one program to run at the same time. An example of multitasking is what I've got here. I've got Google Chrome open there, where I can see there are 32 viewers. I've got my streaming software, Ecamm Live, open here. I've got my Acrobat reader that I've got my slides on that I'm going through here. I've got my Stream Deck down here. So all of these things I'm multitasking, okay? So my computer's multitasking. Actually, it's not really doing it. It can only do one thing at a time, but it is actually making it appear to multitask. It depends how many cores there are. And actually, it is doing it here because my computer has got multiple cores. Hope that makes some kind of sense. Right, where are we? 04. This is good. This is the last thing we need to look at today, which is embedded systems. Here's an example of an embedded system. It is a drone. Right, the magic words you're looking for, and there was, I imagine the mock you did was last year's paper where there was a really ridiculous question about embedded systems and cars. Do you remember that one? it was saying about the car having to keep up with the next car, and it's an embedded system, and it asked you a few questions about it. It was a bit of an annoying question, because how would 15-year-olds know about embedded systems in cars when you're not old enough to drive? But OCR didn't think about that before they wrote the question. So embedded systems, what are they? They are, for one mark, computer system embedded into other electrical equipment. So, for example, a drone or a fridge or a tumble dryer. Those all have embedded systems. And you say, well, why not have a normal system? Why not have a fully functional, programmable system? The answer is because you don't need it. So, for example, a drone or a tumble dryer or a washing machine has only got a limited number of functions. A washing machine can do a couple of cycles that makes it hotter, a couple of cycles that go on for longer, a couple of cycles to not ruin your sort of more sensitive clothes, your more delicate clothes, there we go. But it doesn't need a fully functioning Windows PC to do that. It's still got its own chip, it's still got its own CPU, but it's just an embedded system that's built into electrical equipment. It doesn't need a fully functioning programmable computer. And that's the key thing, right? Is that you can't program a washing machine. Although probably it'll come to the stage where you can program a washing machine, but currently you can't. Think about a radio controlled car, remote controlled car. It needs to be able to go forwards, backwards, left and right, and steer. So you don't need a fully functioning Windows PC. And also, what would you do with it? It couldn't go inside the car, and it couldn't go inside the... you wouldn't have room for it inside your handheld remote control, okay? So typically, it performs a specific function or a limited range of functions. So those are probably the key things you'd need to pull out if they ask you about embedded systems. And embedded means it's put into another device. So now, when you're doing examples, don't say phone, because actually a phone is not an example of embedded system, because a phone is a fully programmable computer. They're a bit annoying to use like a computer, but all of the things that you can do on a laptop or a PC, you can do on a phone. So stick with sensible things like washing machines and tumble dryers, remote controlled cars. That's the best examples you can pick, because they are certainly embedded systems. Okay? Where are we at? We're at 07. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the sort of the main thing that you need to worry about in terms of Paper 1 systems architecture. And if any of you have got any questions, now would be a really good time to ask. So this is where we'll discover whether any of you are brave enough to put any answers into the chat. When I did this last time, I did this with the Year 11s last year from your school. And I sat here asking myself quiz questions for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then people did start to join in. So we'll see how this goes. If you don't feel like doing it, it's fine. But you know what? It's useful if you do, just to test where you are. So here's the question. Can you see this? It hasn't come out very well because it's a bit of a weird colour. But can you read that? I'm not sure you can read that. Let me actually just try something out here, because I think that I've got them a better colour. Just bear with me a second. I think I've got better colours a bit later on. Just bear with me a second. I've got more quiz questions than you can shake a stick at, and I'm hoping that I can get these so you can see them. Let's try, I think it's, just bear with me a second, almost there. Okay, let's try that one there. Can you read these? They look great in advance. Yeah, maybe you can read those. Okay, let's try a few of these. The more cores a CPU has, the greater number of what it can process in a given space of time. What do you think the answer is there? The more cores a CPU has, the greater number of what it can process in a given space of time. And it's now that we'll see. Whoa, Robo Jelly has answered something. This is absolutely outstanding. That means you can read it which is very good because that means I can go back. Robojelly, you are a superstar. Let me give you a ding. Right, I'm going to go back. You can read this. I can stop panicking and get back to the right place. Hang on. Let me go to slide 30 and see if I can get started from there. Yes, okay, so I go that way. Let's go to here. All right, let's do some registers. Robojelly, you are a superstar, and well done for being brave enough to actually say something. So Robojelly, you have my my approval. You can have applause, and you can also have another sound because that was very good. What about this one? It holds data that has been fetched from memory. This has got to do with a data register. Now notice this is data that's been fetched from memory. Data begins with a D. The last time I checked. Sorry, that was sarcastic. It begins with a D, which is the only one that's got a D in it. So which is the one that you could do? Robojelly is literally on fire. Well, I hope not, but that is absolutely outstanding. It is, in fact, the MDR, the Memory Data Register. Well done, Robojelly. Okay, very good. What about this one? The number of FDE cycles carried out per second. Actually, that question doesn't make any sense. Yeah, okay, it is in the billions. Which of these? Okay, more challenging. They like this question. You've got the ALU, the MAR, the PC, and VM. Which of those are registers? It is more than one. Which of these are registers? A slightly challenging one for you here, guys. Which of these are registers? 29 people in. Mr. Blally Godfrey is going to be very happy with you guys. Oh, hang on, Robojelly, I fell asleep there. Robojelly has said the MAR and the PC. You are absolutely spot on. That is absolutely outstanding. Well done. Okay, the MAR and the PC. The other two, well, the ALU is the arithmetic logic unit, and the VM is a bit of a red herring. It's a virtual machine, which you needn't worry about. It's not a red herring, it's a virtual machine. But anyway, which of these, here we go, the inverse, which of these are not memory registers? We've got PC, ALU, CU, and MAR. What do you reckon? Which of these are not memory registers? I kind of gave the answer away in the previous one, to be perfectly honest with you, but see what you come up with. We've still got 9 people here. What do we think may the answer be? Robojelly's come through with an answer. It takes a while for me to get through there. The ALU, you're absolutely correct, is not a memory register. There's actually one more that's not the memory register, but that is still an outstanding answer. I think that you should have some applause for that. And in fact, it is these two. It's the ALU and the CU, the control unit and the ALU. And you picked up who's behind the door. Which door? Where can you see a door? Oh, what, this door here? Is that the door you're talking about? I'm not quite sure. But welcome to you. Oh, sorry. Who's behind the door is your name. Instructions, you're absolutely spot on. Blimey, I'm an old man. That's so funny. Who's behind the door? Who's behind the door? MDR, you're absolutely right. Well done, well done, well done. And well done for taking part, because it is 7:15 on a Tuesday night, so this is impressive, guys. This is showing a degree of willingness to be here. Okay, example of an embedded system. There are 2 there. Any ideas? Example of embedded system. Oh, did I give you applause? Who's behind the door? You deserved that. I might even give you a free ding. There we go. All part of the service. Which of these is an example of an embedded system? There are 2 there. Oh, look at Robojelly. Robojelly is on it again. And Robojelly comes back with fridge and washing machine. You are absolutely spot on. Let me give you some, maybe a brief bit of thunder. That's not very cheerful, is it? Let's think of something else instead. Right, let's do a few more. Where are we? Okay, you're absolutely right. Fridge and washing machine, spot on. We did this one. The clock speed's measured in hertz. Okay. This one's too easy. We know this is embedded system. Let's not waste our time on that, okay? Let's try this one. So important, guys. This is going to be in the exam. It holds frequently used data and instructions. What is it? Is it RAM, ROM, VM, or cache? I put VM in there. Oh, we've got a new player, Goatman. That is a Goatman. Congratulations, and you're absolutely spot on. The ALU, Oh, it's a good guess. That's the arithmetic logic unit who's behind the door. That is the ALU. That's the superpowered calculator on steroids, does maths and logic, yeah? Cash, Goat Man, you're absolutely spot on. Well done to you. And Rubber Jelly, you were also ridiculously fast and completely correct. So you guys are spot on. I need to have harder questions for you guys next time, clearly. Okay, a type of high-speed random access memory built into the processor. Is it VM, the SSD, the ALU, or cache? What is a type of high-speed random access memory built into the processor? VM, SSD, ALU, or cache? What do we think? Rebel Jelly's got an answer. It takes a second to come through. Do you know what? I'm pleased you got this wrong. And not in a patronising way at all, but this is one of these questions that will absolutely turn up because it's there with sort of regularity. And the answer for this one is that, well, the high-speed memory built in is not the SSD. Good guess, though. It's actually cache, okay? So cache, remember we talked about level 1, level 2, level 3 cache is built into the computer. Now, you don't need to know it's built into the computer, but it's a helpful fact because if it's built into the CPU, okay? It's a useful fact because the fact that it's built into the CPU means it's right next to it. So therefore, the data and instructions don't have very far to travel. That's one of the reasons why it's so fast, because it's the CPU's own memory store apart from the registers. Okay, this one. And let's go for a blank. Let's make a blank noise. So allows faster processing as the processor does not have to wait for data and instructions to be fetched from RAM. So just to recap, allows faster processing as the processor does not have to wait for data and instructions to be fetched from RAM. Yeah, and this may well be, it's all going to depend on the connection speeds that you've got, because you're going to be on different services, different routers with different people using different, using the bandwidth in your house. I'm getting, I had a message a minute ago saying that I had slow connection, but it looks like it's all right again now. So hang on, let's have a look. We've got Robo Jelly who said cache. Shall we see if Robo Jelly is right? Robo Jelly is right. We had Goat Man who also said cache. Bum bum bum, and we had who's behind the door, who is joining us from Argentina, but is slightly behind. Doesn't matter. Listen, who's behind the door? You are on it. The answers you've got are good, so that is the main thing. And don't forget, I'm going to send you the link for this so you can watch it again. Any bits that don't make any sense, and please, 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 when you speak to Mr. Godfrey in class, yeah, who's behind the door? Whoop. Well done. You are outstanding. You too can have maybe an evil laugh. There we go. Work for you. So what receives... Oh, yes, I was going to say to you, sorry. If there's stuff I've covered today that doesn't make sense, ask Mr. Godfrey and he will speak to me and I can recap with that again next week. So literally, I'm like an echo a week later. So if there's stuff you want me to do, just ask me because I can go through it. I teach this for a living, so it's not a problem. And I'm more than happy to sort of teach you whatever you want to do. You get me for 45 minutes, an hour every week. So use me. I'm here to help you. So question is, what, let's do this again, receives instructions and data from an input or memory? What is it that receives instructions and data from an input or memory? I reckon this one's actually quite straightforward. Maybe I didn't quite explain it in these terms, but what do you think it is? Any ideas at all? No takers here. Looking like you're not sure. Do you know what I'll do? I'll just push on to... Ooh, Robot Jelly's coming with CPU. I can see that. It takes a second to flash through onto my screen here. CPU. And that, of course, is exactly the answer we were looking for without any further ado. The functions of a CPU. Does it hold the BIOS? Does it process data and instructions? Does it control the rest of the computer, or does it store current data and instructions? And you know what's useful in there as well is that I don't want to give too much away. I'll let you answer the question first. But these are a bunch of definitions that you really need to know. So you should know what all of these do, really. Okay, well, 3 of them certainly. So any ideas here? What functions of CPU? Does it hold the BIOS? Does it process data and instructions? Does it control the rest of the computer system, or does it store current data and instructions? I reckon, because I'd put this on as being very low latency, but as the sort of bandwidth gets a bit stretched, I think, as we're at 7:20, so I've probably got my kids using Netflix or something. No ideas on this one. Okay, well, let's push on. And it is, in fact, it does 2 things here. We've got that it processes data and instructions, and it controls the rest of the computer system. Right, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to ask you if you've got any questions that you would like to ask me, or anything that's not clear, or any questions you've got about computer science. I can't necessarily answer questions about life, the universe, and beyond. I've not figured out those for myself yet. So here's the question. What issues control signals that control hardware? And Robojelly has said the CPU, and then corrected themselves and said the CU. And you know what? You're absolutely spot on, because it is the CU. That is outstanding. You can have some thunder, because that's what somebody of your quality should get. We'll turn it off, though. Right. What is it that moves data around the system? Last one, and then we'll stop with some questions, if you have any. What is it that moves data around the system? Is it ROM? Is it virtual memory? Is it the ALU? Or is it the CU? Which do you think? Ooh, who's behind the door? This could have been... Oh, that was your answer to the previous one. You are on a delay. Maybe you're watching it slightly behind. The CPU. Oh, Goatman. Oh, Goatman and Robojelly came in. There we go. Robojelly CU. Goatman CU. I mean, well, guys, that's very, very impressive. It's the control unit. Who's behind the door for question 18? No, you were absolutely right. You were absolutely right for that question. So when you catch up with this, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I think it's just a bit of latency on your system, which is pretty standard. Let's do one more then. They love this one. Where are calculations done and where are decisions made? Is it the CU, the ALU, the CP, or the MAR? Answers A, B, C, or D. Yeah, Robojelly, you've got a super fast connection as well. It's the ALU. And Goatman is the ALU. You guys are absolutely astonishing. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do one more, and then we will stop. Okay. What acts as a... Actually, we don't. That's not really relevant. That's more A level. They don't want that, do we? No, we did that one. Done that one. Ah, yes. Now, this is a good one. They've asked this a few times over the years, and they may ask you, what is the impact of increasing the amount of cache in your system? So does it allow parallel processing, which I struggle to say? Does it support multi-threading? Does it mean the computer runs faster, or does it allow multitasking? And I can see Robojelly got straight in with an answer there, which, you guys are good. I've got, well, hang on. Computer runs faster. Robojelly, that is for you. We've got who's behind the door, computer runs faster, that is for you. And we've got computer runs faster from Goatman, and you may as well have that one. Sorry, I think you lucked out there. All right, one more, and then I'll stop. One more. Okay, you're right. Ooh. No, let's not do that one. No, I don't want that. Oh, yeah, I did want that, actually. Okay. Yes, this is it. Sends out... This I've sort of taught you over the last half an hour, but I'm wondering if you'll join the dots together here. You may have known it anyway. What is it that sends out regular electrical pulses, which is actually what happens, which synchronizes or keeps in time, in other words, all the components? Is it oh, look at this! Goatman and Robojelly, you two are professionals. That is, ding! That is very, very good indeed. Okay, and who's behind the door? Bum, 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 you. 2 seconds later, but that was still pretty good. You can have a scary organ very briefly. I'm not quite sure the relevance for that, but anyway. Right, so let's draw that to a close, because we've done nearly an hour. Is there anything I've covered today which makes less sense? Are any of the areas giving you more of a cause for concern? Because if we sort of go back to, let me try and find at the very start. Let's go back to 4 and see if we can find it here. So we did that. You, who's behind the door, are very, 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 very welcome. And it's so nice when people get involved, because otherwise it's just me talking to a camera, and I am here to help you. So listen, it's a pleasure. Mr. Vallely Godfrey has already got this because I sent it to him last year, but I can send it to him again. This might be useful, and what I recommend you do when you're doing your revision is you have a look through this and just see which bits do and don't make sense, and then just do past papers, and you realise pretty quickly, and actually from some of your answers, you don't need me, you figure this out anyway, that the answers are always the same. So listen, who's behind the door, you are very welcome. Robo Jelly, you're very, very welcome, and Goatman, thank you for your contributions too. I will see you in exactly a week, where we'll go on and look at the next topic, okay? So 6:30 week today, and I'll see you then. Guys, have a really good week, and I will see you in a week's time. Take care. Bye-bye.